Hello, welcome back to the GamerTime podcast. This is episode number 9, and this week I am joined by Gav.
Hello.
And George.
Hello.
Awesome. Didn't go with a hoy this time, I see, George.
I risked it. I don't know if I was happy with that hello, but
We're rating.
it wasn't as confused as previous attempts.
Good. I just realised I don't always say what my name is at the beginning of the podcast. I'm never here.
That's true, actually.
Nobody knows who you are.
Yeah, I'm just this mysterious person who's on every single one of them.
You're the third person narrator.
Yeah.
The host.
Manifestation of our subconscious.
Yeah. It just occurred to me the other day. I was like, yeah, I quite often people don't mention my name in the podcast either, so I'm just this unknown figment. Anyway, this time we're going to talk about Phoenix Wright. Well, Gav is anyway. Going to tell us about Phoenix Wright, and
I'm going to rant about Phoenix Wright, so I'm going to do.
Should be good. George is going to tell us about SWAT 4 and what that's all about, and we're going to talk a bit about Stellaris, and then we're going to finish on a Tales quiz at the end. So nice and current for the most part.
Well, there's a new Tales game out. That is current.
That is true. Yes. Although we're probably not going to talk about that. So. Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
That's probably all we've got to say on it.
Yeah. There's a new one out. That's our hot take for the day.
If you stay until the end of the podcast, we might even tell you the name of the new game.
We might do. Yes. I'll have to look it up.
hot new info straight from.
Absolutely. So you want to kick us off with our first piece of hot news, Phoenix Wright.
All right. Okay. So there was a new Phoenix Wright game a few months ago. All right, it counts.
Oh, it's close.
So how familiar are you two with Phoenix Wright? Because I've been playing a lot of it over the last few weeks.
Objection. That's as far as my knowledge of Phoenix Wright goes.
That's all you really need, to be honest.
Yeah.
I love the idea. Like I've all the pictures and the art. I think it looks like a fun game, like a courtroom procedural.
Yeah.
With a pointing, shouting man.
I'm vaguely aware of it. I kind of know it's like like George said, but it kind of takes like a lot of them take like a supernatural edge to them as well.
Yeah.
So I know vaguely bits about them.
It's weird. The setting is basically well, it was the future at the time in like 2001 when it first came out.
Yeah.
In fact, the first game is set in 2016, and the penultimate case was the ultimate case, the last one. Technically the penultimate one now because there's an extra one for DS release. Anyway.
Yeah.
Getting off topic, was set on the 28th of December 2016, so that was exactly a month ago now.
Yeah.
Anyway, the idea is in the future, the legal system is so crammed that they have introduced a new trial system whereby every single trial for any crime must be solved within 3 days.
Right.
And in this future, conviction rates are very, very high, so nobody wants to be a defense lawyer. Step in our hero, Phoenix Wright, who fights for justice. He is your friend. And he basically shows up and represents a bunch of people in court in a kind of strange way. To say it's a legal game is maybe pushing it, maybe a wee bit.
Legal themed.
Legal themed. Yeah, it's set in a courtroom. There's a judge. There's no.
So is he a bit like Judge Dredd, but kind of doing the opposite? And I guess less shooting people.
Well, in a way, the rest of the entire world is like Judge Dredd. In the idea is basically there's a bunch of every game has one like central prosecutor who you're up against, and unfailingly the plot line is here's a prosecutor with 100% conviction rate, and you step in and fuck up their day. So, I mean the reason it's not exactly legal themed. Well, it is legal. It's not about the law. Is because basically you're part attorney and part detective, because unfailingly, your client has been falsely accused of a crime and has been set up by somebody else.
Yeah.
The original title in Japanese means turnabout trial, and all the different cases always have the word turnabout in them, because basically you show up to court, you get shafted, and then eventually you're able to produce decisive evidence, stuff like that. And there's a lot of drama and people shouting at each other. It's ace.
Attorney. Sorry.
Yeah.
That does sound great. I mean, I absolutely love the film 12 Angry Men, but I guess that's more the jury.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, as far as I know, the jury aren't actually allowed to investigate the crime themselves, because then they nullify the whole process. But
yeah,
are lawyers? Are lawyers allowed to?
That's a good question. I couldn't answer it. I think a lot of the time in the game, the rules of the world tend to be bent slightly, because he's not really, I don't think, supposed to be investigating these crime scenes, and he does sometimes just swipe evidence to use in court. Like,
Right.
it's kind of justified in the game, because just about
It's
all the prosecutors are corrupt, and they'll hide the evidence if you don't take it. But
right. It sounds like it's to law, sort of in the same way that Theme Hospital is to medicine.
in a way, maybe it's more like it is to law what flipping, like, I don't know. This might, I was about to say what trauma center is to surgery, but that might actually be doing a disservice to the accuracy of trauma center.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's an interesting game though, because despite how wildly inaccurate it is, obviously, it depends what kind of perspective you have on it.
Yeah.
Because obviously in our legal system in the UK or over in America, right? So basically, there's kind of two different prominent legal systems. There's adversarial legal systems, which is the ones we have, where you have a prosecution and a defense, and a judge who kind of acts as a referee, basically, and a jury. And then there's other ones which they call inquisitorial systems, where you have prosecution, defense, but the judge he's also there to find out the details himself, by applying pressure in his own way, and then he makes a decision. And the interesting thing about Phoenix Wright is, despite how outlandish it seems, it actually does represent, to a certain degree, like, not 100%, but a bit of the reality of the Japanese court system, which was...
So is that is inquisitorial?
It is inquisitorial, yeah. And furthermore, until 2008, I think, I might be completely full of shit, but until a really recent time, they didn't have a jury. Like, so even in 2001, it's like a satirized representation of it, but it's not completely, outer space like it is in relation to ours.
That's cool.
That's fascinating, actually. So there is political commentary there.
There is, to a degree, because the idea is, I think the conviction rate in the Japanese justice system is something like 98%. And it's apparently a very common thing to have defense attorneys who have spent their whole career without getting a single acquittal. So... Like, to a degree, there's a bit of a jab at their own legal system there, like how fair it can possibly be.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a bit, it is a bit outlandish in that, every single time it's somebody who's been falsely accused, and every single time you're able to produce, a magic reversal in your fortunes. But what really makes it compelling is it's packed with just... all the characters are it's weird to say, because you wouldn't say they're particularly nuanced or deep or anything, but they're all so outlandish that they seem at home in this weird heightened legal reality.
Okay.
Because if it was normal people in a very weird system, it would seem it wouldn't cohere together. But
yeah,
all the characters are basically really bright, colorful personalities who like to shout at each other, and
it works by its own rules. You mean it doesn't break any of those, so it all feels like it's a coherent world, which is good. It sounds good. I've always meant to play them. They've always been on my list of things that I should at some point get into, but just not quite yet. I have a quick...
Basically,
sorry, go on.
No, you go on. I was about to interject with trivia.
I was just going to say, are they set in America?
Right. Okay. Now here's some time for some trivia, right? The original games, as in their original release by Capcom in Japan for the Game Boy or whatever, not the Game Boy, the Game Boy Advance. They are set in Japan,
right?
But the way they translated it and it's kind of one of those things where the translation is like it's completely off, but it's so committed to the way it's been localized that it gets your respect. Because they basically just have completely translocated it to, like, I think it's Los Angeles.
Right.
And so they'll say they're in Los Angeles, and, like, there's just this, like, weird kind of comedy disconnect between, like, all of these weirdly, obviously Japanese things going on. And, like in the second game, Justice for All, you go and visit, basically, your wee sidekick is like a spirit medium, and you go and visit her village, which is like just like a complete, cliche, like Japanese rural village with, fucking bamboo sliding doors and shit.
Yeah.
And
okay, I was wondering where the fantasy element came in.
Yeah. Because right, in the very first case of the game, this isn't spoilers, but to explain the fantasy bit, to go completely off what I'm speaking about. Basically, in the first case of the game, you're introduced to the second case, actually. In the first case, you're introduced... Right, okay, so I'm completely confusing myself, but it does make sense in my head. You're introduced to your main character, Phoenix Wright, and his, like, mentor. And in the second case, she's the victim of a murder. And then you meet her sister, who's a spirit medium. And so your mentor keeps, like, showing up as a ghost.
Right.
Like, she possesses her sister and, like, appears.
That's hilarious.
And that kind of... And, like, their weird, like, psychic family shows up throughout the whole game, like, series.
Right, okay.
Do they ever base any jokes around his name? Like, it's Phoenix Wright versus Peter Wrong.
Just about in the translation, because it's not their names in the original version, which is another way they've, like, just completely translated it. I mean, all the original names have, like, weird puns in them as well, but I'd need to remember off the top of my head. Like, in the first case, you've got, obviously, Phoenix Wright, your guy, and the witness is a man called Mr. Sawit. And at the end of the case, he's proved to be the perpetrator, and Phoenix naturally shouts at him and says, "More like Mr. Did It." And so,
That is
and that it goes on through the whole game. You have, like, just about everyone's got some kind of pun in their name.
It's cool.
People call him Phoenix Wrong all the time in court.
Right. Cool. What were we saying before? You were saying about the localization of it being set in Japan, but not in Japan.
Yeah, it's set in, like, this weird version of kind of pseudo-America, where you just kind of go about and see all these weird disconnected things. Like you go to... Where is it? You go to that village, and obviously that's not American in the slightest. There's like Japanese writing everywhere that they just don't comment on. Like, they just tactically ignore it, or they're like, "Whoa, I wonder what that says." And I think like your sidekick has, I think in the original version, it's an obsession with rice balls or some shit.
Right.
And so they've changed that to hamburgers, and so she's always going on about how much she loves hamburgers. It's really... It's kind of everywhere, in the game, and so they've kind of completely committed themselves to making it this strange alternate America, which works up to a point. Except there's one game that has gone completely untranslated on the basis that I don't think they could fit it into this scheme,
right?
Because it's set in, like, 1920s Japan, and everyone's going about with samurai swords and shit and shouting at each other.
I would love them to try.
That's the thing. I wanted them to give it a shot and just be like, this is LA circa 1924 at the during the height of the Emperor of the United States. It's a... Oh god. Right, where was I going again? I keep getting myself really confused here.
I don't think we're helping, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm all over the place all the time in my life.
It's because I interjected about asking if it was set in America or not.
Yeah,
you were going to give me an anecdote before I interrupted with that. Not that I remember what.
And I'm bad enough at going off topic on my own, so
Don't need our help.
yeah. The first 3 games were released for the GBA,
Yeah.
but were never released on the GBA in the West.
Right.
And then they were re-released for the DS, and that got ported. And
Right.
then there's been a couple 3DS games so far.
Right. Okay. Cool. Because there's one where it's a crossover with Professor Layton, isn't there?
There is a Professor Layton crossover, which I haven't played.
Maybe not. Cool. I like Professor Layton games. I've played a couple of those there.
I've heard
Yeah,
it's
good.
actually pretty good.
They're yeah. I just quite like the little puzzles. They're nice games that you can pick up, do a couple of puzzles in, and also have like really eloquent stories. Like the first one has just like the twist in it, and you just don't see coming. Just really good.
Mm.
And the puzzles are generally quite consistent throughout. Like you'll have some that are a bit shit, but they're balanced out by ones that are like, you're like, I got it. That's really good. Like you feel like you properly achieved something, which is nice. Have you guys played the Puzzle Agent games?
No.
No. Well, they have similar sort of like, there's a world where you have to do puzzles to achieve things, but it's done in a much more comedic, ridiculous fashion. So
Is that the setup with Layton, that you have to do puzzles for stuff in the world?
yeah. In order to progress anywhere, puzzles are sort of presented as like currency. If you complete this puzzle, I will give you information. Complete this puzzle, I will give you this item that you need to go and do this thing. So yeah,
The puzzle equivalent of everyone demanding you answer their riddles.
yeah, pretty much.
What's
Like,
what's the connection though with Phoenix Wright? How do they cross over? Like, does someone get murdered but they leave a Sudoku puzzle in the victim's blood? And so they're like, well, we need someone to defend the man they've wrongly accused, and we need Professor Layton to solve this trifling puzzle.
That sounds like what it could actually be, to be honest. I read a summary once, and I think you might be roughly right.
Yeah, probably sounds about right. They have really different art styles though, so they must look really weird when they're so next to each other.
They do kind of, like, I think there's the box art, and you see Phoenix Wright pointing at something, and you see, I think Layton's giving it a wee objection finger as well.
Yeah,
And it's like, he's this weird man with a big round head
it
and a
doesn't
hat.
really have any
Massive
eyes. It must look really odd.
Aye, it's a bit of a strange one, but
It's titled Versus, so they're working together rather than actually
they are
in
working
conflict.
together, despite the fact that it sounds like they're having a weird fight. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
if I remember the plot of the game right.
Fair enough. Yes, now I've just looked it up. Yeah, it's weird. Like Professor Layton has just 2 dots for eyes, and then Phoenix Wright characters all have anime eyes, so it must look really strange.
Do you ever get like moral conundrums in Phoenix Wright? Because obviously, because you're the defense lawyer, do you ever have moments where you're presented with someone that you're defending, but you know that they did do it?
That's
but you're trying to get them off?
actually an interesting one, because not in the first game, but it's one of those things where it's not really much of a spoiler with the way that the case is set up in the second game. But the last case of the second game presents you with basically your sidekick gets kidnapped by an assassin, and he demands that you defend his client in court. And so you know that he's done it, or that he's ordered the killing, and you have to, like, it's a bit of there are like moral choices involved, but they don't. It's actually, I think it's the only case of the game where there's the option to get like a bad ending versus a good one, like in the whole series, because it doesn't happen very often, because there's a weird excuse that comes up in the second game where basically you get this like psychic thing, and you can basically tell if people are lying or not.
Right.
And so the kind of canon excuse for him always defending an innocent is that obviously he asks them, did they do it?
Yeah.
And if his thing says they're lying, he's like, nah, I won't defend you. But in that case, you're made to defend him, even though there's a bit of a thing where he thinks he hasn't done it, because he, again, I'm going to spoil a wee bit of the case, but
That's fine.
because it turns out, like, you're trying to find it out, and it turns out that he has done it.
Yeah.
But it turns out, because obviously you asked him, did you kill this guy? And he said no, and that's true, because the assassin did it, obviously. And it's an interesting case, because it's not something it does, and there's bits where, like, it's it's not often very morally complex in a Phoenix Wright game, but you basically have to falsely accuse someone of the murder in order to stall for time while the police go after the killer.
Right.
And so there's this person who you can know fine well is innocent, and so you have to make up like a scheme for how this person planned and executed this assassination. And then at the end, you're kind of just like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I kind of needed to buy some time in court before my client got declared guilty."
And they're like just looking at the clock, going, "I'm gonna go to prison for life in like 3 minutes. Come on!"
Yeah, basically, it's an interesting case, but as far as I'm aware, that's the only part where that happens, where your client is guilty. But it's a really good case, actually. It's one of the best ones I've played so far.
It sounds good. I mean, I think it's a genre that's not really been explored that much, actually. Like, there's the
legal drama.
Well, like just sort of like murder mystery and some more like that sort of thing.
Yeah, I suppose.
Because like there's the Sherlock games, and I've played one of them, not the most recent one, the one before that I played. I can't remember what it's called now, but and that's really good because you can kind of at the end it goes like who did it, and you can get the answer right or wrong, so you can like imprison the wrong person and stuff if you follow the wrong clues or you are totally on the wrong track. So that's quite interesting. And then at the end you'll find out like, oh shit, I sent the wrong person to prison or something.
Are you playing Sherlock in this game?
Yeah, you play Sherlock and you do like the whole like deduction thing where you talk to a person, then you'll like scan their body and you'll look at like them. You basically try and make keywords appear by like hovering over certain areas. Like their button might be slightly falling off, or they might have like dirt on their sleeve or something. So you.
Weird that it kind of subverts the final reveal, because I guess in like so many murder procedurals, and often in Sherlock, you have that kind of final scene where everyone's sitting in a drawing room, and then often like you as the viewer will be like, "Oh, I reckon the maid did it," and then like usually Sherlock or Miss Marple or Poirot or someone will be like, all along I knew it was Pierre, the butler.
Yeah.
And this is how I knew. And then you're like, oh shit, I was wrong. But it's interesting that you are, I guess it's, you are the final decision, so that you kind of you sit everyone down, and then you're like, it was the maid, and then oh shit.
Yeah, because you could be fallible. But it does quite a good. Well, that one does a really good job of like you sort of discovering clues and like following threads and seeing where they go. And some of them are slightly red herrings, so that you go to places you don't necessarily need to, or like you'll talk to people and have conversations about stuff that's just not relevant to the case and stuff. But like finding like the clues and finding like the social deductions and stuff, like you'll be able to use them in conversations and things. So I think it does a good job of like showing like a murder mystery sort of plot, how it would go. I haven't played the most recent one, but I hear it's still quite good, even though it's a bit more actiony. I think I heard lots more running in it. There isn't really any running in the other one.
It's really easy to do murder mystery wrong.
Yeah.
So, like, it sounds like it's actually done it in a way that allows you to kind of enjoy the way it would play out in like a good TV show or a book.
It does, yeah. Which is kind of the opposite. I played the ABC Murders, the Poirot one that came out sometime last year, and that is kind of the opposite.
Well, there's a Poirot.
Yeah,
game.
there's a Poirot game. ABC Murders. I think it's on PC and console. I think it's on both.
Does he have a sufficiently high poly mustache?
It's kind of slightly cartoony almost. It's.
Can you see the waxed ends?
Sort of, yeah. It's sort of done in like a weird sort of like almost cell shaded cartoony version of him.
Yeah.
It's based on an actual Poirot case, which I think is partly where it slightly falls down, because if you read that book, you kind of know what's going to happen, which kind of ruins it a bit. Fortunately, I hadn't, but I can imagine for people like my girlfriend she'd already read that book, so she was like, "Why would I play the game? I know the answers to all the things I'm going to get asked." Just sort of ticking boxes and trying to get through it at this point. So, yeah.
Is there a Miss Marple one? Just
I
because
don't think so.
The idea of a Miss Marple game is, I find quite amusing, just because she's like the least exciting character to play as. Because I mean, like, she's a wonderful character, but she does all of her deductions by sort of sitting around drinking afternoon tea.
Yeah.
Like, she's not the most dynamic of detectives.
No.
she's brilliant in like a wonderful way, but
always,
as a game character, she wouldn't be super
could
exciting.
always have a video game of what's the name of it? Rosemary and Thyme, the one about that gardener that solves murders.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that'd be ace actually. I think.
I'd be up for more like daytime television murder
Aye.
games. Because the thing about the ABC murders is it puts like really random like logic puzzles at places. Like you've got to like rotate a box and try and find out how to open it and stuff. Like things from like The Room almost appear in it that are like really jarring and don't really make any sense. It's like they've gone, right, how can we make this more mysterious and how can we drag it out a bit more?
Like
Yeah.
reminds me of Uncharted, where without the excuse of being like, oh, I'm in some mad guy's tomb.
Yeah.
I need to slide these blocks about to open his clockwork passage.
Pretty much, yeah. You're like, I've got to like slide these blocks on this chest to get the key, which I then need to use in a different box and then slide some spaces and try and figure out. It's like, man, it doesn't really work as much as like the Sherlock Holmes one is more like how the Sherlock Holmes game is more how like I wanted like LA Noire to be, more like just talking to people and trying to figure out a mystery without like the obvious like the way that LA Noire was kind of fell down a bit, but in a more like Sherlocky way. You plus they get to put on silly disguises, which is always slightly amusing. It's like I must dress up as a sea person to go and talk to the sailors. I forgot what it is.
a sea
Sea
person.
Sea person.
Clearly, I forgot what sailor was and then remembered the word. But yeah, no, I'd be up for more murder mystery games because I like a good murder mystery.
Well, I'm just imagining the Miss Marple game being like endless quick time events where it's like pour the milk, but don't pour too much milk. Get it just right. Quick, arrange the cucumber sandwiches, but don't you know?
I just
I don't know.
just while you're doing
Arrange
this
it.
mini game, she's just like, solve the murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. 'Cause, like she, of all the detectives, she kind of just goes for walks, and sits in sort of those big wicker chairs on in sort of seaside hotels.
Yeah.
Which I always find it funny that she doesn't have a sidekick who does information gathering. She just kind of chats to people.
Wanders about.
I wonder if there's going to be a sequel to ABC Murders, or not a sequel, but like another game made by the same company with another Poirot.
So were the Sherlock ones? Are they all original then?
Yeah, they're all original stories. At least the
Right.
ones in the game I played were. I don't know if they are in other ones, but
Okay.
it just makes them a bit more interesting because if you've read lots of Sherlock Holmes like I have, then it's not really the same as like trying to figure out a mystery if you already know the answer to everything. It's like having to like wander around and find clues becomes a bit tedious if you know the answer to what's going on. But yeah, the Poirot one's good. It's okay if you've not played a Poirot game. Some of the puzzles are a bit shit, but it's a nice mystery to go through if you've not read the book. So I'd recommend it on that regard.
To take a quick diversion into TV, I've seen a couple of episodes of what is it? The one where Morse, he's younger, Endeavour.
Yeah.
And it's quite good, but one of the things that it's a bit of a weird thing with a lot of modern murder mysteries that aren't based on books and stuff. They have this like weird tendency to like completely at the end they just kind of undercut the whole mystery. It's kind of just it was just a mad guy all along, like because half the fun of a murder mystery is like figuring out like what was the motive, like.
Yeah.
What's the character here? Because that's the thing that a lot of the Sherlock Holmes stories did really well, is that what's happened and how the murder's been executed and the reasons why it's been executed. It's all got to do with the person's like personal history and motivations, which is partially how they figure it out.
Yeah.
But then the one I was watching, the Endeavour one, it was like, he's just a complete nutcase and he's killing people and taking face masks of them, like death masks. It's like, all right.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
Just as well he left a convenient trail to his house. Like, okay.
Just some ears along his driveway. It must be him.
And I know a lot of people like the new Sherlock series, but
I did. I loved the first two series, but I kind of went off it with this last series. Wasn't keen.
It's sort of become like less coherent as it's gone on, and I honestly I don't think it was very coherent to begin with. But that's kind of my personal opinion and a bit of personal resentment against Stephen Moffat for making a complete fucking shit show of Doctor Who.
Yeah, well, for the same reason he did the same thing to Sherlock, where within Doctor Who everything just became more and more convoluted and more like it was never a simple reason. Every episode then suddenly had to link to the Doctor's past and an overall storyline, and in kind of roundabout and annoying ways.
And
that picked up in the final kind of series of Sherlock, where it's like, oh, it's actually all to do with someone.
Yeah, it's a weird thing where I think a lot of like storylines these days in TV follow that kind of pattern where it's sort of, I consider it like television navel gazing, in that rather than have a new episode of something that develops a character in a different direction, they'll have an episode that ties into stuff we already know about that character.
Yeah.
And they'll do that a lot, I find.
Yeah, I think that the new series of show that's been on recently, I didn't really like the first episode, but I quite enjoyed the second one. I thought it was really good, and I haven't watched the third one yet, but they're a bit hit and miss, because I think that sometimes the pacing is really weird, because it's an hour and a half. Sometimes the pacing is like... especially the first one from this series, I was like, this did not need to be an hour and a half.
Didn't like that at all.
It's just like drawn out for like it's like they have to hit an hour and a half. So like we must make this particularly short plot fit an hour and a half. Sometimes it just seems a bit unnecessary. But yeah, I think sometimes they're a bit trying to. I think they're cleverer than they are sometimes, and that's one of the biggest downfalls.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They're fun to watch, and like I said, I really enjoyed the second episode of the most recent season. Also, why does Moriarty kill himself? You know, in the first season at the end, he shoots himself. Doesn't he shoot himself in the head?
Because he's a fucking wacky guy. He's a kooky dude. Yeah,
okay, fair enough. I just never thought that was like, just seemed really weird.
No, explained or logical.
No, it was like
it's the Joker dynamic, isn't it?
I suppose, but like
you're my reason.
Yeah, but I just thought you'd think he would live to try and just like beat Sherlock, because he just hadn't won at that point, so it just seemed like really off character.
Well, I think he was killing himself in like an attempt to kind of beat Sherlock.
Yeah,
as it were, like you can't quite figure me out.
So it's not turned out that he hasn't killed himself yet. I've not seen the new season.
Not that I know of.
Like,
I
can imagine it though, right? It's like, oh, actually,
it's not.
Was a fake bullet with fake brains.
Don't expect any payoff.
No.
No.
Like the final series. I think Sherlock, like the acting is excellent, and the composition and all the shots and the just like lots of stuff is beautiful about it. It's just that this one kind of buckles under the weight of the overall storyline, and how they try and tie everything together just gets convoluted, because there are loads of brilliant moments that I think would work better if they were just like, here's a simple setting for it, rather than
I think there's a lot they kind of just need to, well, it's like they can't back down now, they can't lower the ante, so they just have to keep raising the stakes over and over. It's a lot. The
first episode very much felt like that. They were like we'll have to have a fight in a pool, now we've got to have one in a different country, and now we've got to have it in an aquarium.
It weirdly feels like he's never just solving a fucking mystery anymore, is he? Like, there's always something else happening for some reason, and it's weird. I always feel like it kind of, when I was watching it, it would usually propel itself in some way, except from the fact of Sherlock solving a mystery. Like, always something else would happen, or there'd be some dramatic development.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's got kind of structural problems. Like, I love the way it's produced. Like, it's gorgeous.
It is lovely.
Like, it looks beautiful. It's very well filmed.
The creators said that what they wanted to make was not a Sherlock Holmes story, but the story of Sherlock Holmes. So it's not a and so they wanted to talk about had the focus on his character rather than
The mysteries.
the
That
mysteries,
makes sense. Actually,
which I think
now you've said that.
Which I think, and that's the thing though, like, I feel like you kind of cut out half of what made the Sherlock Holmes book so brilliant, because he's a fascinating character, but at the same time, it's, he's juxtaposed against his weird mysteries.
Yeah.
Many of which are weirdly mundane, but mundane in like a really curious way.
Yeah.
Whereas in the new Sherlock Holmes, there's a lot more focus on his character development, but then the mysteries kind of take a back seat.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're weirdly like high concept, action packed mysteries. Like, it's a government spy conspiracy that somehow takes a back seat to Sherlock understanding the concept of love.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I think I think the mysteries could just be simpler to make the character stuff really great, but they kind of clash with each other and get in the way.
Right. There's the obsession with raising the stakes to make more exciting television, and then like an attempt to make it also a kind of character drama. Which, to be honest, I don't think Stephen Moffat's ever been very good at character drama. But like, I don't know. Like I said, I have a vendetta against him. I don't like the way he writes stuff. Like, that's about the long and short of it. But right, television podcast. That's us.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this episode is very much the Law and Order podcast.
Should we get back on track a bit? And George, you want to tell us about
Re-rail.
SWAT?
Well, very much in theme. I've been playing SWAT 4.
Excellent.
Which like, I think, and it's the mission. I think it's the mission objective in most missions. You bring order to the chaos. And so basically, you are in charge of a SWAT team, and you get sent out to do SWAT team things.
Nice.
There's a hashtag for you. But yeah, so basically, it's a tactical shooter. Came out in 2005, but has recently been made available on Good Old Games, and that's where I got it.
Good stuff.
But it's really good. Like, it's very much at the sort of simulation end of shooters. Like, it's very methodical and slow paced, but it's absolutely brilliant. Like, so the things you're responding to are more, at the sort of mundane end of police responses. Like, you respond to crackheads holding up a petrol station, or kind of very small scale hostage situations. And I don't think I'm only about 6 or 7 levels in. So I think, and they are escalating in kind of size a bit, but it's not kind of Call of Duty or even like Rainbow Six level things where it's a international terrorist group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no overarching story. You are just a SWAT officer of kind of nameless. Well, I think you give the characters a name, so you could be Officer Butts or whatever, but no one ever calls you by the name.
Seymour.
Yeah, so like, I mean, there are no characters. I mean, your 4 squad mates all have names, but no one really has a character. So essentially, the game is you're in command of them. You'll get a vague briefing at the start of a mission. So you get like a police briefing, and it's very cool. Like, you get a little audio of the 911 call, and you get like a timeline of events leading up to your arrival at the scene. And it's quite immersive. Like, often you don't go in with a huge amount of information.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, we've had reports of gunfire. These are the civilians we think are here, and these are possible suspects. Or like, I've just got to a mission where it's like, I think it's like a money laundering den, and the police had an undercover agent, but his wire has gone dead, and they've heard gunfire. So you go in, and it's like, this is our agent that we have in there. These are the people we think might be in there, and there are probably some civilians. So you go in with very little information. Like, you get a rough, like, you get kind of crude drawings of the building. So So sometimes it's like the police have pulled up blueprints, or they'll just give you like a sort of rough hand drawn thing.
Yeah.
And it's all very minimal. Like you don't get like there's no mini map that like you would get in kind of more recent Rainbow Six games. It's just minimal HUD, and like your weapon. That's about it. But the game is very hardcore because 1 or 2 shots will kill you, just as 1 or 2 shots can incapacitate your enemies.
That's cool.
And the most interesting thing is that you're bound by the rules of engagement, so you can't. So if I mean, which I think are similar to how the police have to react in real life. Like if you can't just run in and start shooting people, you can only open fire on a suspect if they pose a direct threat to someone or they open fire on you.
That's
which
interesting.
Yeah, and it's really cool because obviously you can die so easily, and there's no saving or checkpoints. It's just you get inserted, you have to complete it all in one go. It's very tense because you're constantly kind of and so it forces you to be careful and methodical rather than just run through, and like everything in the game kind of brings together to create this amazing tension. So even when there's like there'll be 2 bad guys in the entire level, you're constantly moving through, kind of ready, kind of like twitching.
Yeah.
Because the sound design is great. So like you'll kind of hear like radiators creaking, and I don't think it has like directional sound, but it kind of you get these kind of ambient noises that kind of get quieter or louder as you get near them. And then it has a soundtrack that'll kick in when you like breach a room.
Neat.
Which is quite funny because you don't really have a huge amount of information. You'll stack up and everyone will get ready, and then you can give orders to your squad, and so you'll be like, breach the door, throw in a like tear gas or something.
Yeah.
And so you get there, you're waiting, you're like, oh god, and you bust in, and the music kicks in, and it's this kind of like sort of adrenaline pumping, sort of bassy electro, but it's not obnoxious. It's perfect, and you kind of charge in, and there's just an empty room, and you're like, oh shit.
It sounds like a really, really interesting way to set up a game. Like, just the way it operates on tension is like, because the idea, I suppose, cause the levels are they very long or not?
I think like they are getting a little bit longer, but they're largely just kind of areas. Like you don't really, sometimes you get to choose your insertion point, but they're a bit like Rainbow Six Siege, where it's just kind of a map.
Yeah.
And you've got to go through and clear it.
Like it's dealing with one very tense situation at a time.
Yeah, basically. So each level is one tense situation. Like the second level is just brilliant. You're responding to a serial killer, and so basically you've been told that there's a serial killer who's been kidnapping and dismembering women, and that a woman has gone missing, and like given a picture of her, and you're pretty sure that this is his house.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and like it's just an absolutely brilliant level because there is only one man with a gun on the entire level, but it's
still tense, and
it's really tense because you're in this like it's very much like the final sequence of Silence of the Lambs.
All right.
And you kind of bust into the house, and it's all dilapidated, and then you kind of find his slightly mad mother who starts like screeching at you.
All right.
And like saying her boy's innocent, and it's really weird because one of the objectives is you have to secure every civilian in the level, which basically means you shout at them, they put their hands up, kneel down, and you can handcuff them.
Right.
I can't tell if it's a bug or whether it's like some weird commentary, but there'll be times where civilians don't like respond to your shouts. Like you just keep shouting at them, but they don't kneel down.
Right.
And so because everyone has I assume it's like a hidden sort of morale meter. So like you can shout at enemies, and sometimes they'll put their hands up, and you can arrest them rather than shooting them. But sometimes civilians just refuse to kneel down.
Right.
And so the only way I found of getting around this is by either tasering them or like dropping tear gas on them. And it's like, and it's weird because everything else is this focus on non-lethal. You want to arrest everyone. You want to ideally kill no one. Like you want to shout more than you shoot at bad guys. But there's these weird moments where you have to like tear gas someone because you can't complete the level until you've secured them.
Right.
So it just feels it feels pretty grim, and like I don't know if it's either a glitch or a comment on police brutality, because you'll handcuff civilian or hostages to secure them, and they'll be like, "Why are you treating me like this? I'm not the criminal."
Yeah. Like, oh well, I've got to do it. The game tells me to. You might run about and get in the way.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like I've had moments where I very nearly shot hostages, and so which is another like brilliant moment. Like I opened the door, this guy turns around, raises a gun at me, and I'm about to shoot him, and then this like little girl runs right in front of my gun.
God.
Out of nowhere, and I'm like, oh
Should
shit!
have tasered her already.
Well, that's the thing. I very nearly shot her in the head, but she very sensibly ducked at the last minute, and so, I mean, I didn't pause or anything. I was literally shooting, but somehow she managed to duck under my bullets, and so I just shot the guy right behind her.
Lucky.
But yeah, so that's the thing. I was like, well, that got my heart going, because obviously, had I shot her, it would have been game over.
Oh dear.
But yeah, no, the serial killer level is horrible, because you're just, everything about the house is foul, and it's really tense, and you slowly like descend into the basement, and you open up this basement room, and you kind of find this like shitty mattress, and then all these tapes.
Yeah.
And you can hear like the audio of one of his victims like pleading, and there's kind of grainy footage on a TV, and then like there's a weird door, and you kind of proceed, and it's pretty
cool.
Yeah.
It seems like the kind of thing where in a game like that, because the stakes aren't low, but you know what I mean, it's not over-egged. Like something like that would actually manage to have some kind of impact on you as a player, rather than another game where
it does. Yeah, it does.
Where, you know, if you were blasting through, 300 enemies a second, then it will lose its impact. The idea of like, one serial killer, it's like, what the fuck does that matter?
Yeah, it's a lot less poignant, isn't there, in a game where you kill like 1,000 people, opposed to like tracking down this one dangerous serial killer.
No, that's the thing. Like the game has these, like that's the thing, because it's so tense. Because obviously, like the situation feels tense, and the ambience of the room is tense, but also it's tense because you don't want to fail and restart because there's no checkpoints. But you kind of get these crescendos of action where you do breach, and there are a couple of bad guys in the room, and these moments of action are, seconds long, because they either put their hands up or they try and shoot you, and you shoot them, and there's just these awesome moments of tension and kind of methodical, trained kind of clearing, and then suddenly bang, and suddenly everything kicks off and it's over in seconds.
Yeah.
But feels awesome.
That's cool.
I was going to say, it sounds like an interesting game to have, if they'd make a new one. But I do remember there being one game that advertised itself as being like SWAT and turned out to be atrocious.
Oh, is that called like, I think I remember it being on Steam. It was like Raven.
Yeah, something like that. And I can't remember what exactly it was called. So
not a clue, unfortunately.
It's gonna.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, the SWAT does show its age a little bit, because I mean, it's one. You know how older games just do not hold your hand at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and for like 80% of the time, it's brilliant, because it just puts you in a level, and it's like, get it done. We're not going to tell you anything.
Yeah.
But there are moments where you've cleared everyone, and basically you have to. So anytime you secure a hostage, you have to report them, or anytime you shoot someone or arrest someone, you have to report it and secure their weapon.
Yeah.
So like you literally just you going over to them and hitting the use key, and you like radio in. But it can lead to the end of a level where you haven't found like one civilian.
Right.
All right.
And the game can't end until you found that one civilian and secured them. And like in a modern game, there'd be a little like bar that tells you how many civilians there are remaining to find,
Yeah.
or there'd be a thing that tells you where they are, and it would kind of like handhold you and tell you to get it. But because it's an older game, it's just like, come on, find it. And so there are some moments where it can get kind of tedious, especially if you've been wounded, because it has compartmentalized damage to your character.
Right.
Like if you get shot in the leg, you're slow.
Just try to crawl around, try to find this one civilian before you bleed out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So that's when it gets to, that's when you find the final civilian. They refuse to like
So
kneel
you
down.
taser them.
And so you taser them, and it's almost like, and you feel bad, but at the same time, it's like I've been limping around this level for 4 minutes trying to find you, and you will not get
My
down.
patience is frayed. Okay.
Quarter speed Benny Hill thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, so it's a big grin. But,
You had every chance to come out of that broom cupboard. All right, in the last 4 minutes.
Yeah, so it's like, right, I'm going to choke you out just by like putting a tear gas grenade next to you.
Just walking over to them, placing it on the floor, and then standing back.
They're like, what's that?
Well, I mean, like, you literally do that because you have to, because like when you throw the thing, you have to hold it to throw it further. So you literally equip tear gas and just click, and your character just drops it.
Oh dear. Civilians, eh?
Yeah, and it is very much a shouting simulator, because whenever you hit use, you just like shout, get on the floor or hands up. And so you just spend a lot of time just running around into rooms just shouting and hoping you don't have to shoot anyone. Which I guess is probably how the real police operate.
Yeah. It sounds
Just
like a
be
really
really
interesting sort of real
Yeah.
life, like it's almost simulation rather than like a how you'd imagine.
Yeah, and
a
the
shooter
squad
to be,
controls
so,
are very easy to pick up, and very like they work
it
pretty
sounds
well.
cool. I've added it to my wish list on GOG, so I'll remember to come back to it at some point.
I think I might have played it a long time ago when I was young and got smashed to pieces by it, and kind of never played it again.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that was why I picked it up, because I had SWAT 3 when I was really young, and never quite figured out what I was meant to be doing, because it just gave you those. I remember being like 9 and not bothering to read the briefing, and so for a 9-year-old having to like wander around a level and find civilians essentially doing admin work. Like I'd sprint in, like shoot everyone, and then be like, oh.
Got to file my civilians now.
So
Put them in the
yeah,
cabinet.
so it kind of wore off.
Scan them in and then shred the fuckers. That's cool. It's cool. I'm interested. That sounds like a game that's just properly flown under a lot of people's radars, so it's worth going back to it. Good old games having cool stuff.
Yeah, because I mean that's what SWAT stands for. It's shouting words at terrorists.
Definitely. You've been playing something else actually. It's been more strategy related as well. I mean, George, Stellaris. Do you want to tell us a bit about?
Yeah, I've been
Stellaris?
playing Stellaris. It's essentially it's a 4X game on a kind of galaxy-wide scale. So you're a civilization that's just discovered fast than light travel, and you have to expand and build your inter-system empire.
Yeah.
And like other 4X games, you win by controlling the galaxy. But it's by Paradox.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning. It's a Paradox strategy game. So
Well, that's the thing. I've bounced off several other Paradox games because I'm not super keen on doing spreadsheets in my spare time.
yeah, you see, I quite like.
but this
spreadsheets,
this
and I still
cuts-
bounce off them, so I think that says quite a lot.
But yeah, this cuts down. This is a much more intuitive and kind of cuts down on the menu management.
Yeah,
And it's been much easier to pick up. I'm still learning. Like my first couple of games, I basically would discover new alien races, kind of in the nearby space, and then they'd be much more advanced than me, and I'd get invaded and die. So I've been having a lot of fun in my most recent game of just playing really peacefully.
I was gonna ask you.
And
Are you like a space dick, or do you like to just make friends with everyone?
Well, I'm not good enough to be a space dick. That's the
Right.
issue. Like, I'm not very good. I'm not very good at doing war. So I'm just having a lovely time, kind of just exploring space.
Cool.
So I kind of set it to a fairly low number of AI civilizations.
Yeah.
And had them all start quite far apart, and I just had a really lovely time just kind of discovering the space around my civilization and the kind of there are very tiny kind of like micro civilizations.
Yeah.
Singular alien planets that you can discover, and you can discover planets that have intelligent life but are at kind of our level or lower of advancement. And so you can like monitor them.
See, that sounds really interesting because I played the new Civilization game when it came out a bit, and I just couldn't play it in single player because I was like, it just feels like I've played so much Civilization that like even though it's a new one and it is really different, it's still basically the same game at the end of the day. Where it's like I've sort of seen all I'm going to see from it. Like multiplayer is still fun because you play with your friends and that's just fun, but I quite like the idea of like a new strategy game that's just really different that I could get into like just playing it single player. So Stellaris has been like it's just been up there as like something that I'd like to try.
Yeah, like I'm still very much learning. There's still a lot I need to get to grips with, but it's nice because it has those kind of quests that Endless Legend had.
Yeah.
Where there's lots of kind of you have a little notebook of objectives that you can actually do, which is just often something that
I think they were a really good addition to Endless Legend.
strategy games don't have.
Yeah, I think they're just a really nice like extra bit because quite often like a 4X game can feel like it's a bit soulless almost, like you're just sort of making your numbers go up rather than there being like a lore and a story to what's actually happening. And those are a really nice like tied the world together, made it because everything's so different. All the factors are so different in Endless Legend. Like learning about like their specific plot lines, so maybe you get like faction specific like equipment and buildings and like heroes and stuff. So I really liked those. I keep looking at Endless Legend 2, and I'm like because it's in early access at the moment, and I'm like, oh, I really enjoyed the first one, but I just
there's Endless Legend 2 in I didn't know.
Yeah, it's in early access. I know it's due for release this year, but I really like the first one, and I just like the same sort of thing.
I never properly got to grips with it because I had friends that played Civ, and so I'd play Civ more than I played Endless Legend.
Yeah,
and I was never very good at the quests because it would be like, go and do the quest, but it's on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And I'd be like,
they were not perfect by any stretch. Quite often you get ones that were like, build a thing. You're like, but I've built all the things. I don't have to go conquer somebody to build the thing.
Yeah. Well, because with Stellaris, it is a bit nicer where it's like, you need to do. Like, I think I had a mission where it's like a whole load of our satellites that we sent out 300 years ago. We should probably go and gather them up because they contain sensitive data that we don't want other potential. Now that we know that there's other alien races, we should probably go and gather those up because we don't want them being discovered.
That's cool.
But they're like just outside your borders rather than like you've got to trek through two other enemy AI things.
It's a bit more
to get
more organic maybe because some of the the actual like quest objectives felt a bit forced sometimes in Endless Legend, whereas the story to bit was good, but some of the bits were like, why do I need to do that? That doesn't really like link to make sense with what's like should be happening. It's like you've got to go and kill a monster in a place to progress the quest. Now you've got a sword. Yeah, sometimes they're a bit like, okay, fair enough. I'll do them.
Well, I was thinking and I think it was always weird because it was like you'd be questing for sometimes like a sword, which makes complete sense in a game in like an RPG where you're one character and getting a sword is a thing. But it's like I'm a whole society. What do I need with one sword?
Yeah, sort of because all the heroes
and it's a bit
had
like
equipment, so it kind of made sense in that way. But it was more like it felt a bit like it. Some of the quest objectives were more of an issue than the reward themselves. But also, like, some of the equipment, especially when you got the quest, because some of them are random quests that can appear at any time, you just get crap stuff when you're like at the end of the game, because some of the rewards are slightly randomized. So you get like a sword that'd be really good in the first sort of 10 to like 20 turns, but is essentially useless after turn 50. So yeah,
But you could win in Endless Legend by completing your quest.
yeah, you could, which is I think to its benefit, having that sort of like pushing you to sort of explore the race that you're playing as, which is really interesting. Yeah, you complete your quest objectives and then you do build a thing, and then you win. Which is, it's more interesting than I made that sound, but yeah. Yeah, I haven't looked into too much for Endless Space 2 actually yet, but if they brought any of like what they've learned from Endless Legend into that, it's going to be a hell of a good game.
Yeah. Did you play the first Endless Space?
Yes, yeah. That's
Yeah.
First Endless game I played. I was really
I was the same. I quite liked it, but it was a bit weird. The like rock paper scissors thing was bizarre.
yeah.
Like
The combat was odd.
Kind of hope they dump that, but
Yeah. I kind of like the
Yeah.
card system a little, like the combat, which made.
yeah,
But yeah, the some of the other bits were a bit.
it was a bit. Yeah, it was one of those games that evidently took some risks. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't. It was really far away from being like a bog standard 4X game.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
was
Yeah.
interesting, but it also I feel like some of it, the combat, the like card thing and stuff, it kind of made it feel a bit ungrounded, a bit like weird and abstract, I guess.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
You know, some of the endless games are a bit weird and abstract, and that's kind of what makes them good. But you know, it would kind of disconnect you a bit from, like, you know, and it's a bit of an overrated word, but you know, your immersion in the
Yeah,
world.
no,
Like,
absolutely.
but now I'm doing weird rock paper scissors combat with my spaceships.
Yeah. No, some of those bits were a bit odd. You just like have to watch your spaceships do stuff, and then you're like, I chose engineering. Engineering got beat by shields. Crap.
Yeah.
And now I'm dead. Yeah. Whereas I think the combat in Endless Legend, where it tried to be like in a grid, was
Yeah, that was really
it
interesting.
was good, but when you had like a big army, it was really drawn out and long.
It kind of
It
bogged
didn't
itself
scale
down.
well. Like it was good for like short battles, but then when it got any bigger than like maybe 4 or 5 units, it was like, oh, it's gonna take ages.
Yeah, it gave like a good sense of like a little skirmish or between like particularly powerful units.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it started getting tons of units on the field, it would take ages, and it was a bit confusing. I'd kind of lose track of
you'd
stuff.
have like a bajillion arrows pointing everywhere, and you'd be like, "Oh God, yeah, this is all happening."
Mm.
Yeah,
It was really annoying in multiplayer because it was quite cool to do against another opponent where you like a human opponent where you'd move your armies and you actually get this little like micro battle, but because you have the same thing against AI, it would just mean that one friend just suddenly has to
Yeah.
wait while if
Yeah.
you accident, and you can auto resolve, but sometimes you'd misclick
Yeah.
and just click fight, and then your friend has to wait for 5-10 minutes while you
spam through.
do this little skirmish. You're like,
Yeah, because you can even just like accidentally press like observe, and that which means it has to play out, and it's just like, oh, come on. I really like the way that you could just sort of zoom out from it and then look back at the rest of the map and then zoom back in. That's just a really cool feature of like the battle's happening here. You can zoom out and look at what's happening elsewhere in your kingdom, and then zoom back into the battle to see what's actually happening.
Weirdly though, the way the endless like they're one of the like developers in one of the series where it's like you have like a weird situation like that comes from like inventive design, like being a bit unusual, a bit strange, and then it's like you think the next game, but I don't have any doubts that they'll find a different way to do it, because all their games have been so different from the norm. Like I can totally imagine that developer finding a way to scale it better in the next game, or like coming up with a different combat system, or
Yeah, no,
just
absolutely.
doing something new.
Yeah, definitely.
That's kind of the best thing to feel about a developer, isn't it? Like, rather than, you can feel like, oh, I'll get the same thing next time, and that's nice, I guess. Like, you're a Civ fan, and the next Civ game's probably going to be more or less the same as the last one.
Yeah.
But being like, oh, here's this developer that kind of does weird stuff, and good weird stuff, rather than like wonky weird stuff.
Yeah, because like Endless Legend and Endless Space, they have their sort of similarities in some areas, but they play so differently, like
Yeah.
to such extreme extents. Whereas like the Civ game that was in space and like the Civ game that's on Earth, they're not hugely different. Like they play basically the same, so it's just nice to have that sort of versatility. Like, yeah, it's good. Is what I'm saying.
It is good.
Yeah.
Never played Endless Dungeon, but Endless Games get a thumb up from.
Oh, it's good.
For me.
It's good. Endless Dungeon, especially in co-op. It's really fun for co-op. It's like a weird sort of semi tower defense game thing. It's weird. It's really strange, but it's really fun for. It's got a good co-op setting where you. Because quite often controlling 4 characters and trying to do everything at once is a bit of a handful, especially on slightly harder difficulties. So having like another person that's like always in control of the sort of 2 of them makes it a lot more manageable. I mean, my brother played it quite a bit over Christmas, so it's good
Nice,
good co-op game. I'd recommend it definitely. Yeah, and plus it sort of ties into the endless world, so you'll like a lot of the creatures that attack you. The creatures that appear in Endless Legend, what they're called, the ones that the plague ones, the one that just like destroy everything.
Another one you
like,
mean? I can't remember.
Yeah, the ones that like giant bugs. Those guys.
The Tyranids from 40k.
Yeah, whatever they are. So, yeah, those guys. Yeah, there's those guys appear in it, and so does some other stuff, and like some of the other races and stuff appear. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's like a different riff on like a semi-familiar genre, so it's quite nice. Yeah.
Well,
do you have anything else to say about strategy games, or should we do a quiz?
Let's do a quiz.
Okie dokie. You ready? Ready to quiz?
Yep. We're drifting over an hour, so.
No, it's fine. Only slightly. Not too bad. Right, okay, so I've got a quiz here about the Tales of games. What do you guys know about the Tales of games?
They're
the first 3 words of their title. That's about it.
They're known as role-playing games, of the JRPG subgenre.
This is true.
I give up.
Okay, cool. So they're, as a sort of JRPG, they're known for having sort of overly melodramatic stories that are a bit bullshit at times. And equally, the characters say things that are like half really cringy and half meant to be like inspirational quotes that you might see on like a wall somewhere. So what I've done is I've compiled a bunch of them, and I've also made up my own that could be them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a quote, and you're going to tell me if it's some nonsense from a Tales game or some nonsense that I made up. And the winner at the end gets something, I don't know, an undefined prize.
Hooray!
Yeah, which I'm sure you'll both be eager to get.
I am eager.
Cool. So let's kick it off. You can either, well, actually, do you want to be a team or do you want to try and beat each other?
I think it's try and beat each other.
I can't.
Conflict is the heart of every story.
Refuse to cooperate with anyone.
Okay, fair enough. About that.
You've got me excited about this prize. I'd refuse to share it.
Good. It's not for sharing.
Exactly.
Right, okay, so quote number 1. Alright, you ready?
Go for it.
You'd rather tell those people, sorry I had to die today. I promise we'll fix things later. Is that a real quote? Or is that a Nevi nonsense?
I'm going to say it's a real quote.
I'm going to agree.
You are both correct.
I knew it. can tell.
It was something that Yuri Lowell said in Vesperia, and I think basically he was saying that don't be an idiot, you're going to get yourself killed. You've got shit to do.
In a roundabout kind of way.
Yeah, pretty much. Right, number 2. Courage is the magic that turns dreams into reality.
I'll say that one is a Nevi special.
I'm gonna say it's real.
George is correct. It is in fact real. There is a real quote.
Bastards.
Yeah.
That's a real quote.
Richter Abend, I think that was his name.
Abend.
I'm sure it's pronounced differently to Abend, but from Symphonia 2
What an
apparently.
Abend.
I've not played that one, so that one was a new one on me, but fucking hell, that quote is just bullshit in a handbag, isn't it? Like, what the fuck is that?
I'm very inspired. It's like something your aunt would like on Facebook.
Yeah. Courage is the magic that turns dreams into reality. Ugh. Right, okay. Number 3. Only friendship, true friendship, will end the world's suffering. Is that
Man.
a Nevi special, which I'm totally
That's-
stealing, or is it a Tales quote?
I'll say that's a Nevi special with a side of bullshit.
I will agree.
Oh no, you
I think it's one of
you
yours.
pegged my very special brand of bullshit that is a Nevi special. Okay, number 4. Let's search for the butt Sharia. It's the only way.
That's gotta be real. It's too obvious.
Yeah, I'm gonna
wouldn't-
agree.
You
It's
wouldn't
definitely
try
real.
and trick me with that.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, I think that they call a flower a butt by accident or something, and one of the characters is like has amnesia or something and doesn't know what they're on about. So yeah, that's Sophie from Tales of Graces. But she's like
Excellent.
not a real person or doesn't understand what things are. So yeah. Tales of our journey will be told for millennia and millennia.
Title drop, in a way. Too subtle. It's a Nevi. It's a Nevi.
I hate the phrase millennia and millennia. I'm gonna say it's fake.
So you both think it's a Nevi special.
I do.
God damn it.
I don't know.
You're both correct. I'm apparently
Nice.
terrible at tricking you.
We've got you. We've got you.
Alright, number 6. That's exactly what I said, except the opposite.
I'd say real.
I'll say it's fake, even though I have an inkling it's real. Just because if we keep picking the same answers, I'll never pull ahead.
Well, I'm one ahead.
I know.
Yes, that's true. But so
I'm behind.
you said it's a fake, Gav.
I'll say it's fake.
It is in fact fake.
Nice. I knew.
Ah.
You thought if you just picked something kind of mundane,
Yeah, it was.
you could slip it past me.
Yeah,
We're equal now.
that sounds like something they would say, and it's similar to things they definitely have said. So,
You studied the dialogue.
oh yes, yeah. Right, number 7. I don't quite get it, but I got it.
Real. I'd say it's real.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah,
real.
that's real. That's the main character from Tales of Symphonia.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't think I would rely on him to talk me out of a dangerous situation.
No. He is an idiot. Yeah. That's about as much I have to say about that one.
I'd just like to point out that one of us could game this, because if whoever answers second always agrees with what the other says, now that we're tied, we'll never end the game.
That's true. But they'll never win.
Yeah, if there's no winner, no one gets the amazing prize.
You need a lust for victory
Yeah.
here.
It's not a shareable prize.
Well, I would quite like to retain my crown
Yeah.
that I got last week.
There's
so.
either one winner or 2 losers. That's the option for this quiz. Okay.
Yeah, judging by all the packaging that the crown arrived in, I don't want to have to post it. That's probably quite expensive.
Yeah, all that bubble wrap. All right, if you put that in the bin, finding more is just a farce. Okie dokie. Number 8. You have such big hands. No wonder you pack such a punch.
I'll say that's legit. It's goofy enough that I think it might be something someone has said.
Yeah, I'm gonna say legit.
It is indeed correct. You are both tied
Man.
again.
Too good at this.
Yeah, that's something that gets said frequently after a battle in Tales of JRPG.
Right.
I just, sometimes, one in every 4 battles when you have those 2 characters in it, I think. And you just
Nice hands.
Yep, groan. And finally, number 9.
Oh,
The world's already fucked. Who wants to go for a drink?
Fake.
real.
It is fake. It's a Navy special. George
Oh, fuck.
is the winner.
Oh, well. I could have either lost normally or lost by drawing, which
Yeah.
I'd rather die on the field of battle.
Go out in a flame of glory. George, for your prize, you get this. Congratulations. That is your prize. Don't spend it all at once.
I'll try not to.
Good. So yeah,
I'll
that's
savor
a
it.
second semi-feature that has no name.
I'll set that as my ringtone.
Nice.
Yeah. Good.
Actually, maybe just my text alert. I guess it's not quite long enough for a ringtone.
Yeah, that's true. Just have it repeating continuously. Just speed it up a bit. And put some beat in the back.
Alright.
So yeah, there we are. That was the Tales quiz. I'm
Can't believe I didn't win.
Yeah, you definitely spotted my special flavour of bullshit quite early on, which was bit
Even
of a
though I'm
shame.
such an expert on these video games,
yeah.
I'm the biggest fan,
What?
and I didn't win.
I'd only heard of them last week. Well, I mean, I won the Witcher quiz having not played the Witcher
This
3.
is true. Yeah. I'm gonna pick a game you have played next, George, and you're gonna be shit
No,
at it.
no, I think. Let's keep it going.
I
with
think
games
actually,
I have rarely not heard of.
a segment in that flavor, I could do a Phoenix Wright one, and that's good, because people say some outrageous shite in that game.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Right, I think that's about wraps up.
Crawling up on a
podcast
minute
for
20.
this week. Yeah. So, thank you for listening to the podcast.
Thank you.
If you found us without the website attached, you can find us at gamertime.co.uk or follow us on Twitter at gamertimeuk. You can follow me personally at VadaHM, and you guys are...
If you follow me at Gavin_GTUK, you can find me there.
There you go.
And I'm at scruffy looking _ capital S, capital L.
Excellent.
Awesome. Right, thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Please listen again.
Yeah.
Don't let us put you off.
No. Bye.
I could never commit to goodbye. I was so close to saying it, and I was like, nah, I won't.